and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be taking a look at a puzzle by Christoph Seeliger. Realshaggy is the pseudonym of Christoph, and many of you will be familiar with Christoph's name. His puzzles have uniformly been some of the most popular puzzles we've ever covered on the channel. Every single one of them just seems to invoke delight. This one is called Super Fuzzy Arrows, and it has a very cool rule set which I've not seen before, and a somewhat daunting grid which features no given digits and just some lines. And I'll explain what's going on in just a second. Apparently this is a beautiful puzzle. We've already had it recommended by the community a few times, and I think it only came out a couple of days ago. I don't have much news for you today. Thank you so much if you enjoyed or if you joined Mark and I yesterday in our Obra Dinn stream. That went out at 10 o'clock last night UK time. We did quite well, but we didn't finish the game, so we're planning to revisit it, hopefully with a view to finishing it, because we don't have too many murders still to solve on Wednesday night. So Wednesday night 10 o'clock UK time, hopefully you'll get to see us actually finish the game, which would be great. And then probably we'll return to Bubba Is You after that. Other than that, just check out what we've got going on Patreon. There are some wonderful puzzles there, including of course the November monthly reward. We've already begun work on the December monthly reward as well, and maybe even a Christmas bonus. And speaking of Christmas, Mark asked me to mention the merch. We do have some lovely merch which you can buy. There's links under the video, including some Christmas themed stuff. So it's a Christmas miracle. These are two examples. We've got a hoodie there and of course a mug, and these puzzles are genuinely real. They actually work. So if you get bored with just looking at the beauty of them, you can solve the Sudokus on them as well. Anyway, that's just a quick plug for our merchandise. Let's get on with Christoph's puzzle. I'll read you the rules. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Draw a circle in one of the cells of each line. The digit in the circle gives the sum of the digits towards each of the remaining end or ends of the line. So what I read this as requiring us to do is, let's look at this line here. I think that there is basically a missing arrow circle along this line. We've got to put it in somewhere. Let's put it there. And let's make that a 6 just for the sake of exposition. We're now being told that these three cells must sum to 6. The sum of the digits towards the remaining ends, yeah. So those three cells are going to add to 6, and these two cells are going to add to 6. Now, I presume that the reason we've got this each of the remaining, so we could have a remaining end. Yeah, okay, so here, for example, there's no way you could put the circle in the middle, because that would imply that these three digits were actually the same number. So here you'd have to put the circle either here or here, and then you'd be saying that those two digits add up to that one. So it's a fascinating idea. It's so simple and yet apparently solvable. We shall have a look at that right now. Do have a go yourselves though. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Christoph's puzzles, no, I can't tell you actually they're genuinely approachable. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. You will have to judge from the length of the video. With that, I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, I presume, feels like, in fact, I can hear music. Is that coming from my headphones? I'm just going to turn that off. That's the music from Diablo 2, which I'm currently wading my way through. My necromancer is useless. Now, can I still hear it? No, it's just my ears playing tricks on me. Right, so how do we do this? Is it something to do with these long lines in the middle of the grid? Or do we have to actually think about the short lines not being able to... Let me just think about this for a second or two. Okay, let's start with the short lines, because I can see something simple with those. Definitely for this one here, the circle must be on one end. But I think that's also true for the 4-cell lines as well. Because if we try and put a total in either of the central cells, let's just try and put it there for example, this cell will then therefore axiomatically be the same number as this, and that can't work. So again, I think we've got to put one at one end, one at one end. And even on this kinky one here, I think we've got the same sort of thing going on. If we try and put a circle in the middle, that's going to imply that one is equal to that one. Similarly, if we put it there, that's going to imply that one is equal to that one. So all of the short lines have relatively restricted positions for their circles, but this isn't really helping us to crack the puzzle. So what's going on then with the 6-cell lines? And do we need to use the secret? What are 3 7s? They are 21. Ah, yes. Okay, we do need to use the secret. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to introduce you to the secret of Sudoku. And if no one's told you this before, be prepared. I hope you're sitting down. Now, let's consider the contents of any complete row, column, or box of a Sudoku. Well, by the rules of Sudoku, these cells here must contain the digits 1 to 9. Similarly, a complete row. Similarly, a complete column. If you add up the numbers 1 to 9, you get 45, and this is the secret. It's not what Douglas Adams said it was. 45 is the secret to the universe, or life, the universe, and everything. Now, why is 45 so important? Well, let's think about what the circle on this line, we don't know where the circle goes, although I guess it's got to be in one of the central cells again. Could this be a 7? No, because the quality of one of the lines, given this rule set, especially, well, actually I was about to say something wrong there. It's not true for a short line, but it is for a long line. For a long line, where you have to put the circle in the middle of the line, and you obviously can't put it here because these cells would have to add up to 7, and there's no way you can make 5 cells add up to 7. You can't put it in the penultimate cell because, again, this cell and this cell are going to be equal. So you're going to have to put it in one of the middle cells. Now, why can't it be a 7? Well, it's because this line is basically, it has a mod 3 characteristic, doesn't it? Because if we think of 7 as being x, these two cells are going to be also add to x. These cells are going to add to x. So this line, its sum is 3x, or 3 times 7. Now that's 21. That means those 3 squares, because of the secret, must add up to 24. Now 24 is possible in 3 cells, but only if we do that. And that's going to repeat the 7 in row 5. So that logic, I think, is going to work for any straight 6-cell line in this puzzle, which means that this line has an 8 or a 9 on it in one of those two positions. Ah, yeah, okay. That's interesting. Now the geometry is coming into play. So we know that the total for these 6-cell lines is now an 8 or a 9. And we know that that 8 or 9 must be in little dominoes. There must be an 8 or a 9 there. There must be an 8 or a 9 there. So there is now a virtual 8-9 pair in box 5. Now where do we put the 8 or the 9 that must exist on this line? Only here. So that cell there is an 8 or a 9, and that is the total for this line here. Now, what does that mean? So if it's an 8, that's 24 altogether, 3 times 8, which means this is 21. 21 in 3 cells without using an 8 can only be done in one way. That must be 5, 7, and 9. So if this is 8, this is 5, 7, 9. If this is 9, we sort of loosen the pressure on the puzzle, because 3 times 9 is 27, and that means they only have to add up to 18, which is much easier to do. And in fact, you wouldn't even need to include an 8, because that could be 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So, let me just think about this. So, is it a question about where 7 goes in the middle box then? 7 can never be on the 3-cell side of the circle. Yeah, so if that was a circle, you'd have to put the 7 exactly Oh no, there's optionality. Sorry, no, maybe that's not a sensible question. Okay, so is it... what it might be is maths again, but this time on the middle 3 rows altogether, because if you think about it, we know that one of these is an 8 or a 9, one of these is 8 or a 9. So the digits that are off the lines in these 2 rows are all going to have to be relatively high, because they're either adding to 21 or they're adding to 18, depending on the values. Yeah, okay, let's think about this. We know that one of these purple squares is an 8 or a 9, and one of these purple squares is an 8 or a 9. So together they are an 8-9 pair. Therefore, let's use our mod 3 trick. We know that these 2 lines together must add up to 3 times 17, which is 51. Now, that means that these 6 cells in row 4 and row 6 together must add up to 90, 2 complete rows, so 2 lots of 45, minus 51, so that's 39. So these cells here add up to 39. Oh, that green flash was a total fail. Sorry, let's use an orange flash. These add up to 39, and this adds up to either, what did we say? Either 21 or 18. So if it was 21, then the orange cells together would add up to 60, which is a lot. And that's if this is an 8. So if that's an 8, the orange cells add up to 60. And that is impossible. Wow, okay, that's impossible. Tricky, but impossible. Why is it impossible for the orange to add up to 60? Well, those 2 squares could be well, they can't in fact be 9 and 8, but imagine they could be. That would be 17, which requires these 7 cells to add to 43. Well, that's impossible, because again, because of the secret, these 2 squares would have to add up to 2. 45 minus 43 is 2, and I can't make both of them add up. Well, I can't put 1 in both of them. So this is not an 8. That must be a 9. And now those squares add up to, what was it, 18. 18 plus, what was it, 31? Was it 18 and 31? I've forgotten. These ones were 50, well, 39. 39 and 18 is 57. So 57. So the maximum I could make those squares is 42 with a 1-2 pair here. That's it. That's beautiful. Right, we found the secret, I think, to break into this puzzle. Another secret, because if I absolutely max out these cells in box 4, I could make them add up to 42 by putting a 1-2 pair here. But the problem is I can't make these add up to less than 42, because then these would have to add up to more than 15, because together we know that they're adding up to 57. Now, you can't make these add up to more than 15, given there's a 9 in the box already. So that must be maxed out at 7, 8. These must be minned out at 1, 2. And now what do we do? Now this line looks awfully difficult. How can it have that at one end? It must have a 9 on it, mustn't it? Yeah, it must have a 9 on it as its total, because we know its total is going to live somewhere in the middle of the line in one of these 2 cells. And it can't be a 7 or an 8. And clearly it's going to include this digit in one of its sums, so it must in fact be a 9 in that position, because a 9 here, you couldn't put 2 1s into this square and make it work. So that square's a 1 or a 2. And that means there's a 9 down there. You can't put 9 at the... Oh, no. Well, you can't actually put a 9 here. I was suddenly thinking maybe you could, but you can't with a 7 on the line. 7, 1, 2 is 10, so we definitely can't put a 9 here. Now what? I don't know. Okay. So there's got to be a 7 in one of those cells, because the 7 in box 5 is definitely not on the 3 cell 9 arrow. Again, we've just been looking at this. You can't put 7, 1, 2 in there because they would add up to too many. So the 7 is not in those 3 cells and must be in one of these cells. And I don't think the 7 can be in either of these 2 cells, can it? Because then it will definitely be in a... If you put the 7 there, it's part of a 3 cell sum going this way, which won't work. So the 7 is actually now down to 2 cells. Sorry, 2 cells in each row anyway. But yes, again, if you put the 7 in the middle, it's the same problem. If you put the 7 here, this square has to be the total, and it's including the 7 in the sum. So the 7 is restricted. I could have got this earlier. I was even thinking about this. But I don't think we know which way up the 8 and the 9 go, so perhaps we have to think a little bit harder. Okay, so where should we look next? Where shall we look next? We now know that the total of this line... it's the same logic. Yes, this line borrows its logic from these lines. We worked out that you couldn't put a 7 on one of these lines because the 3 other cells would have to include a 7. So this must have an 8 in one of those 2 positions. And now we can use mathematics on this row, presumably, because now, yes, once this is an 8, we know this line adds to 3 times 8, which is 24. These add to 21, so that's a 5-7 pair. Now the 9 line here can't use 1, 3, 5 in its top 3 cells. So it's, right, this is lovely. So it's either 2, 3, 4, or it's 1, 2, 6. Well, it's not 1, 2, 6, because that's going to give this cell no value at all. So it must be 2, 3, 4, and that square has become a 1. And therefore this is an 8, and this is a 7, and we are away. 7 must be the sum of these 3 cells, which are all different digits. That's a 1, 2, 4 triple. That's a 1. That square has become a 3. Oh, this is just glorious. Now we've got a 6, 8 pair there. Now, oh yes, now this is an 8. So that means that you don't put an 8 up here. It must be a 9 in one of these cells. And the 8 must live down in one of those 2 cells. And this 7 is telling us where the 7 goes. So the 7 goes to the top. Does the 7 have to be paired with... So the 7 is paired with the 9. And it must be next to the 9. Because if we put the 9 there, those 3 squares will not add up to 9. This is really smart stuff. Christoph's puzzles are such a joy. They really are. So that's a 2. That's a 1. Now this being a 1 is beautiful because you can't put the 8 here. Because if you do, those 3 cells are summing to 8 and you can't use a 1, which is impossible because the minimum they could be would be 2 plus 3 plus 4, which equals 9. So we can place the 8 as well. Okay. So what do we do next? Now this 9... I'm going to call it an arrow, but you know what I mean. These 3 cells have to add to 9 without using 2. So they are 1, 3, and 5. That feels like I can do something with that, doesn't it? I'm not sure what it is, though. So those 2 squares have got to be a 4. 4 and a 6. Okay, so now I've got to put a 4 and a 6 on this 9 arrow. Which must mean, well, if the 6 is in the triple, it would have to be 1, 2, 6. Which actually looks like that might work. That would put 2, 6 down here for the 8 arrow. Oh, this is where we should look now. The 8 arrow. That can't be 3, 5 because those 2 squares cannot both be equal to 1. And it can't be 1, 7, so this is a 2, 6 pair. Now we've got 2, 6 forced onto this arrow, so that is 1, 2, 6 adding to 9. Those two squares have got to add to 9 without being 1, 8, 2, 7 or 3, 6. They have 4 and 5. That fixes the 5 on the 9 arrow above it, and that square and this square are a 3, 4 pair. Which means those two squares are a 5, 9 pair. And surely you can't put 9 in that position on the arrow. Of course you can't. That would not work. In fact, looking at this arrow, I didn't notice this earlier, but where is the circle on this arrow? It can never be too close to an end, or you're going to have the problem that this digit needs to equal this digit. So it must be in the exact middle. And once it's in the exact middle, this square clearly cannot be a 9. So, whoa, what am I doing? I want to get rid of 9 here. I want to make that a 5. This is a 9. I should, I think, actually label all of my middles. That seems reasonable. That's a middle. Maybe I get rid of my yellow and orange highlighting now as well. This is well, I'm going to call it a middle. It's clearly not. This is a circle. I should label my circles. Let's be precise. Now, what are those squares? They are 3, 7 and 8. Well, that's going to be difficult, isn't it? You can't put 7 or an 8 with a 5 because this is going to be a double-digit number. So that's a 3. Let's get rid of the 7. So we've got a 7 and 8 pair there. This is now adding to 8 just by maths. We can do that. So this is either a 1, 7 or a 2, 6. Oh, that sounds like the police. I hope they're not after me. That's not 1. That's not 7 by Sudoku. Aha! That is beautiful. This arrow is the most beautiful, well, not an arrow, this line is an absolutely beautiful line. Why? Well, what are we going to make its sum? We know its sum lives at one end or the other, and it's not an 8. Well, it's not a 9, because those 9s are looking at it, and it's not actually a 7 either, because if you put 7 on this, you've got to accompany it with 1, 2 and 4, and that square's going to break. So this is a 6 line. So there's a 6 in one of those two cells, and the line is 1, 2, 3. So this is a 1, 2, 3 and 6. There's a 1, 2 here, so that is 3. I told you that is really gorgeous, isn't it? And if that's 1, 2, 3, that is now a 4. So that's a 4, that's a 2. That's not 2 anymore, so that's not 6. So this is a low digit. So now maybe we look at this line instead, which now can't be 6 because that's going to break this square. Because if you put 6, 1, 2, 3 on this line, well, or 7, 1, 2, 4. So this is either 8 or 9 at one end of this. If it's this end, it's a 9. If it's, well, it's not 6, it's not 7. It can't be 8 actually. Sorry, I wasn't scanning downwards, but neither of those can be an 8. So this is a 9 line in either position. And it's not 1, 2, 6, which means it's got a 3 on it. And that 3 has to go in one of those 3 positions. Which means that by Sudoku, that's a 3. That is comically brilliant. Oh my goodness. That's a 4, that's a 5. Maybe we do some Sudoku now. Yeah, we can do some Sudoku. Let's do some Sudoku. 6, 8. You know I will resist that for as long as I possibly can. My goodness. So what do we need? We need 5. We need odd digits along here. Look, so this is 5, 7 and 9. That's not 5. That's not 9. Oh, and that can be anything. So that wasn't actually. Maybe that's not where we're meant to look next. What about, so this is either 1, 3, 5 or 2, 3, 4. Can we rule out or rule in one of those options? I'm sure there's a way, I just can't see what it is. No, sorry, I feel like I'm letting everybody down, including myself, but I can't see how to do it. 1, 3, 5 or 2, 3, 4. Is that putting too much pressure on these digits somehow? I don't think so. Okay, so maybe this isn't what we're meant to look at next. We've got to have a look somewhere else. Where should we look then? There has to be an 8 in this box somewhere. Well, it's got to go there by Sudoku. Now there's got to be a 6 in this box somewhere. Yeah, so Sudoku is our friend for a change. We know there's no 6 on this arrow. They still can't quite lock the 6 into anywhere useful. This square's got to be 5, 7 or 9. Okay. So maybe we look at... I don't know where to look. Oh, actually, maybe I can look at that line now if it can't have 2, 3 or 4 on it. Yeah, okay, it's got to have a 1 on it. Because if it doesn't have a 1 on it, the 2 digits that it'll be summing will be at least 5 and 6. So there must be a 1 on it, and the 1 is not here. So there's a 1 in one of those squares. Right, now look at this line, which we know has an 8 on it. And what do we know about a three digits that sum to 8? They must include a 1. So that can't be 8 anymore. That is gorgeous. This little line here is so clever. You can't put 8 here because those 3 cells would need a 1. So the 8 goes there. And now there's a 1 over on this side instead. And it's not... Yes, okay, and it's not 1, 2, 5. So this is a 1, 3, 4 triple. And we can do the 4 and the 3 and the 1. We can fill this in. That makes that square a 2, that square a 6. So this isn't a 6 anymore. That's become a 6 out of nowhere. I've got to put 6 in this row. It's got to go here. That's a 6, that's a 2, that's a 1. Wow. Okay. Well, that felt like progress. That's become a 1 by Sudoku. That's a 2. That's a 2. That's a 6. 8 goes here. And now, do we know this arrow? We know it's adding to 9. It doesn't have a 2 on it. Yes. So it's not 1, 2, 6 or 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 3, 5. So that square is either 5 or 9 by elimination. These squares have got to be 1, 3 or 5. That one can't be a 1. That one we don't know about. And this square is 1, 3 or 9. So there's a little bit of pressure on this square now. That's got to be a 7. That's a 5. That's a 9. That's a 5. That's a 7. And this has become a 7. Okay. This square is a naked single 4, which gives us the 4 and the 6 in column 1 and 2. Now those two squares have got to be a 7, 9 pair. Don't think that's resolved, but I might be wrong. These have got to be 5, 7 and 9. That's not 9. Okay, so we're close, but we still haven't quite done it. Come on. What's going on here? Maybe this column. We seem to have a lot of things done in column 5. We need 3, 4, 5 and 7. So this square is oh, I see. That's 5 or 7. This must be a 1. So now, I see. It depends which side the circle's on as to how. Oh, this is weird. So we know the 1 is included in the sum, but I don't. If this is a 5, it can't be 4 plus 1 equals 5 because of this 4. So if that's a 5, that has to be a 6. Which might be impossible, but I can't immediately see why. If that's a 7, this could be 1. Oh, it could just be 1 plus 6. Oh, so how are we going to place the circle? If that's a 7, you could go 1 plus 6, but it's going to have to be done by Sudoku, isn't it? Because, or that could be 7 plus 1 equals 8. Okay. Okay, well, that's not quite what I was hoping for. It's not done, is it? It's definitely not done. 3, 4, 5, 7 here. Oh no. Okay. So how do we finish this off? 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 9 here. So this square is restricted. This square, yeah, look, that square sees all the high digits and most of the low digits. That's a naked single. Wow, 5. Mark would be proud of me actually for spotting that. He's much better at spotting naked singles than I am usually in all forms of life, not just Sudoku. And this is this 5 is also doing work down here. 5, 7, 7, 8, 6 goes here. So that's... Oh no, it's still not done. It still can be either way round. Oh, you rotten thing. This square here, if it's 5, 5 plus 1 equals 6. If it's 7, 1 plus 6 equals 7. So we still don't know. Ah! Okay. What are those two squares then? They've got to be 2 and 8. Oh, we can do that. So that's 8. That's 2. So this, that square's a naked single. That's a 9 now. So that's a 9, that's a 9, that's a 7, that's a 5. And that's telling us, okay, so it's this one that's the circle. So have we put, well, we haven't placed our circles on every line either, so we need to fix that. I haven't done this one, but I know it's that one. So there we go. I think now we should be finished. We need 3, 4 and 7 into these squares. So the 7's got to go in the middle. This is a 3, 4 pair. 3, 4 pair here means that's reduced in value. And this 1 at the top is very helpful. So that's 5, 3, 1, 3, 4, 4, 3. That needs a something. Scanning's gone awry. It's a 4, I think. And that needs to be a 9. And I think that's the puzzle solved. Yeah, that's just beautiful, isn't it? That is really wonderful. I made an appeal on Discord the other day for puzzles that still had the required beauty content that every Cracking the Cryptic puzzle needs, but that wasn't absolutely monstrous. So we weren't sort of immediately diving into sort of higher level theory to solve it. And this is the perfect example. It's so elegant. It's an original rule set. The logic is interesting and the execution is sublime. Christoph, as usual, comes up with the goods. Really, really cool puzzle. I mean, there's a little bit of arithmetic and trickery at the start. And the way it unfolded was gorgeous. This line is gorgeous. This line, forcing the 1 into this domino and that placing the 8 was also incredibly cool. It's just, I'd love to be able to set puzzles like that. I really would. Christoph, take a bow. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments. I do enjoy reading them, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.